Hey everyone, welcome to today's video where we're going to continue to cover Nio stock as well as Tesla, Xpeng and Li Auto. And if you're new to Nio stock, before we look at the weekly insurance registration numbers compared to the main competitors, and before we look at the Xpeng's earnings report that just got released a few hours ago, and long story short, that report points to a brighter future for all of these companies, specifically for Xpeng. I mean, the numbers are really great. I think they made like 70 million or so net loss, which is almost break even. So Xpeng is moving in that direction, and we might see the same kind of situation for Nio at the maximum maybe 3 or 4 quarters from now, potentially already in half a year, right? So there's a lot of stuff. I think like the most difficult part for all of these automotive companies, like the most competitive phase, which has been essentially after the pandemic, like in 2021 or so until now. Now maybe finally we are starting to see the leaders of the future in terms of automotive companies. I'm talking about, obviously, even though Tesla is struggling, for sure they're still, one of the leaders. Then you might from China have, Nio, Xpeng. Maybe we're starting to see some of the dominoes, like for example, Li Auto struggling. Or we finally seen that the PHEVs is gonna, from now on be quite difficult market to operate in. I would say that a couple of years ago, there was a clear trend that everyone knew that the hybrid cars would be difficult, but maybe there would be a window of a few years that they could still thrive and they could still sell a lot of these cars. For example, Lincoln Company 0.8, I think that model does like what, 200 kilometers on electricity and 600-700 kilometers on gasoline, right? So maybe we are finally starting to see where the market is clearly moving towards the electrical cars. So that's one takeaway from now. But looking at the numbers, actually, you can see that Nio, really good numbers, 7,190. So there's some positives in there, and the main positive is for sure Onvo. I mean, finally, and right now, that looks really great. There's a great momentum, 3 weeks in week 31, 3,700, week 32 to almost 3,300, and now almost 3,800. So they're getting close to 4,000 every single week. And as far as I can see, looking at the rumors online, looking at the queues on the Onvo stores, you can see that there's a huge amount of customer demand, and this time is more than what you normally see with a new car from Nio. Like, this is way above what you traditionally see from any new launch from Nio, no matter what kind of price range. I mean, we never see this kind of launch interest on even Firefly, which is much lower, let's say, average sales price. I know that some of you might say, okay, but Onvo is much cheaper than the classical Nio cars, right? So maybe that's why they have many higher sales numbers. I mean, that's part of the truth. But then again, you can see that Firefly is not doing that kind of numbers, and that car is yet again much cheaper than Onvo. So I would say this is clearly pointing to the picture that Onvo is for sure doing great. So they hit some of the most fundamental parts of that car great. And now it's just like taking in, thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of sales potentially already within a month or so. On the negative side, the traditional Nio brand, the ES7s, ES8s, ET5, ET7s, and so on, that part of the business is honestly not doing that great. For sure, a few bits of cannibalization here. I think Onvo is taking a lot of sales away from the classical Nio brand, and this is where I'm coming from when I criticize the management. They simply have to cut down the number of cars. I simply cannot see anywhere where this company is going to be successful in the future in terms of thriving as a company and competing against the leaner companies like Xpeng and also Tesla and all the legacy OEMs like BMW and Mercedes and so on and so forth, unless they start to cut down on models on Nio, the traditional Nio Classic. They have currently between 9 to 12 models or so. So if you're having let's say 10 models and you have 2,500 cars a week, that's 250 cars on average for every single model, right? I don't think that's good enough, in my opinion. Not at all. I think if you cut down that model lineup from let's say 10 cars to 7, you're already gonna save in the future a lot of R&D budget. Sure, there's a lot of carryover stuff between these cars, the screens and whatnot, the battery pack probably, but still there's a lot of R&D going in designing the stuff that is not the same. So I would simply say that cut down the cost even more. And going to some of the graphs, you can see here that on this chart here from Q1 of 2021 on the left, and then Q4 of 2025. So the last two numbers are extrapolations from what I expect roughly. Green you have R&D, red you have SG&A, and then the first SG&A divided by revenue. So how much is the SG&A budget as compared to the total revenue from the company, and the same for the R&D. And you can see that, I mean, SG&A, I'm planning some kind of a plateauing. I'm leaving a little bit of a room for surprise there. This is really good because if the management is serious with cutting, becoming almost break even at the end of the year, this is where they potentially can surprise on the positive side. On the R&D budget, I think they are moving in that direction. Nio has for sure been very, very, very bloated. They are still, as some of you say in the comments, extremely bloated. If you compare them already now to Xpeng or, I don't know, Tesla, they are like spending much, much more R&D resources. If you take, let's say, the R&D budget and divide the number of cars they are selling, they're way ahead of, Tesla and Xpeng. So they are still bloated. There's still a lot of room to improve for Nio. But at the very least, I think that you can see after, like, let's say Q4 of 2024, somewhere in this quadrant of the graph, that they are moving in that direction, and they are projected to continue to move in that direction. And on top of that, they still have the SG&A budget. Well, I believe they might, they might surprise on the positive side, in my opinion. We have also, previously mentioned this other sales situation for Nio, the battery swapping and all the other stuff that goes into that other sales that is not direct car sales. I would say that they are maybe on the cusp of starting to make, not a money printing situation, but at least, getting some sort of a, return from that business as well. So that's going to start to look very, very interesting. You can see the difference between them. So the white is the cost of other sales. The blue is the other sales revenue. And usually the white is higher than the blue, but we start to see that they are keeping towards together, and I plotted the green one, which is the difference between them, the delta between them. And you can see that, I mean, by Q2 of this year, we are projected to be very, very close to break even. And we've been already, making, I believe in Q4 of last year, they actually made 3.3 million or something like that. So in any case, that's just like a few steps of the company that are moving in the right direction. Now, let's go to the expected August delivery numbers. I think that number is interesting. Currently, I have them at around 16,500 to 70,000 or so deliveries until the 17th of August. Now, how many more days do we have left? Like working days after 17th of August? We have 10 working days left in this month. So it tells me that they're gonna probably, I mean, we already have, like, let's say they delivered 17,000 cars on the 12 first working days, and we have almost half of a month left from 17th of August until the end of August, which is the 31st. And that includes 10 working days. So we have delivered 17,000 cars in 12 working days. How many cars will Nio deliver in the remaining 10? Usually they are much stronger in the second half of the month. Yet again, also even more stronger in the last week of the month. So I would say that I wouldn't be surprised if they at the very least do 15,000 deliveries for sure. I mean, at this kind of pace, like let's say halfway through the month, 7,200 cars. Would I be surprised if the last week of August they would do even above 8,000? Not at all. Not at this kind of momentum that this company still have. Most of that 8,000, I mean, it would look like something like, I don't know, let's go with 4,750 Onvos. Let's say that Firefly gets close to 1,000. Let's stick by 935. And then we'd have Nio Classic. I don't know, let's say they finish by 2,950, right? Something like that. How much would that be? Well, that's going to translate to around 8,600. I mean, they could easily do even like, I don't know, like 4,150. Yeah, that would be 8,000 cars. So it's not a whole lot required for this company to break, like, 30,000 deliveries on a monthly in terms of August. And how would that look like? So let's look at this graph here. We can see that the white bars are for 2025. And in July, they kind of stagnated. The past 3 July months in 2023, 2024, and this year has been around 20,000 to 21,000. Right now, it looks like August might finally be the month in which we're gonna like leave the 2024 delivery numbers behind us completely. I think in 2024, Nio delivered 20,176 cars in month of August. Right now, they're almost already there. I mean, I would say with the deliveries on this Monday, like yesterday, and Tuesday today, they're probably at the same numbers of August of last year. And then we would still have almost 1 weekend and a half of working days left. So I would say that, yeah, I'm gonna stick by the 32,000 number, maybe slightly too optimistic, but I would say 30,000 is almost safe now, I would say. Even potential, if they surprise, I don't know, 33, 34,000 maybe. So that's moving in that direction. For once, like this year, we are finally starting to reach a place where the company actually delivers on what I expected in terms of monthly deliveries. Quickly looking at the lithium carbonate price, it's continuing to go up. So this is quite interesting. You see how quickly it's gone from 60,000 to 85,000. But then again, I always tell you this, zoom out and you'll see it's like a blip on the radar currently. This might change. I mean, at this kind of pace, a couple of months from now, we might be back to 150,000. I don't know. But let's wait and see. But just keep an eye on the lithium carbonate price, because that's going to, at some point, affect the margins. Going to the, infrastructure for Nio, this is a really interesting one. And I always, give credit to this in neoswaps.com. Total number of cumulative swaps, 83 million. Swaps today, since midnight, 5,300. We can currently see that number of swap stations is 3,455, of which 25 came online this current month and 460 this year. The swaps per station, less than 30 swaps per station. That number is not good in my opinion. This points to the fact that this company is simply, they are like not utilizing all of the swap capabilities that they have. If you're new to this channel, you know that the latest generation Nio swap stations can handle, I think, like 420 swaps or so on a 24-hour basis, so a full day. And they're on average doing less than even 10, like significantly less than 10% of the capacity of the newer stations. So I would say like there is absolutely, in my view, no need. Like if they could easily stop, building up so many swap stations, they could do like 2 or 3 a month instead of 25 or 30. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but in my opinion, this is like make or break it situation for Nio as a stock, because I think the fundamentals are for now moving in that direction. We've seen previously that this can change very, very, very quickly from quarter to quarter. Like right now it looks good, but Nio is quite volatile as a company, even as the fundamentals. The fundamentals can for sure change like in few weeks. Maybe like in 6 weeks from now, the Onvo deliveries start to plummet and then the classical Nio deliveries doesn't take up again. Then we have a problem for sure. But as things looks right now, I'm leaning towards the bullish side. Like again, if you force me to decide where this company goes, I think the valuation at 11.4 billion is ridiculous. If they continue with this kind of delivery like numbers, I mean, if they continue with this kind of, let's say 32,000 in August and then it's scaling up to 37,000, maybe finishing the year with 45,000 deliveries, now we are starting to get like in like Tesla territory in 2021 or something like that. So for sure, there's maybe at least 2020. So there is for sure quite a lot of momentum for the moment. I believe that Onvo is their best bet over the past couple of years, probably since 2020. So for sure everything is moving in a direction, but just be cautious, because at the end of the day, the financials is what deciding the future of the company. I think a lot of us investors are kind of quickly looking away from the fundamentals of the financial side. And I think if you look at how the company, how much losses they have gathered up over the past couple of years, every single quarter, being well above 700 million on multiple occasions in terms of net loss. Now the aim is to come down maybe in Q2 earnings in a couple of weeks from now to, let's say, around 600 million net loss, which is a significant reduction of the 930 million net loss in Q1. And then again in, I don't know, let's say in Q3 maybe 400 million net loss, and then in Q4 270, or let's say 200 million net loss, right? I would say this is just a quick update on Nio. I think for the moment, I appreciate your comments in the previous videos about Nio. I think things are for sure, I mean, we cannot deny it. I've been quite critical towards the management, but at the current state, like as things stand today, they are moving in the right direction. This does not mean that I'm saying that this company, safe, or this stock should do 10x within a year, as some other YouTubers have said. Not by any means. I think, again, let's wait and see. But I would say we are very close to a time frame in which the investor market will decide if this company is gonna survive or not. And if they do, this company's future in terms of stock price is gonna be decided, in my opinion, in very few shorter, like a couple of quarters. Maybe in a couple of quarters, I believe either we finally know if it's gonna be stuck around, less than $5 for a couple of years to come, because the management haven't, succeeded in reaching profitability by Q4, or at least getting close to profitable by Q4. That is, the bare minimum I think the market expects now. A lot of people are for sure accounting now that this company will be at least close to profitability. If they don't reach that number, or we're getting very close to that, then we have a problem. If they do, then I think this stock is too cheap. Like if they do and they show like a couple of quarters of this, by this time next year, it could easily, like, you know me that I'm probably the least hyperbolic Nio investor, at least one of them on YouTube. But if this company like becomes profitable and Q2 next year they make, I don't know, even like just 50 or 100 million net income, I think this company is gonna for sure be valued like $15 at the very minimum. So anyways, thanks for your time. Please like, subscribe, and see you in the next one.